majority of students who sit for a lot of these entrance exams happen to be engineers, but
Well, if you are an MBA candidate and looking to understand the ins and outs of the ATMA exam and understand the complexities of the fees, cutoffs, rankings, well, you have come to the right place.
is conducted by the AIMS, as you know, All India Management this thing. So the purpose of ATMA is one of those examinations to select students for various B schools in the country, right? So like we have CAT exam, as you're all aware of, which is one of the most important examinations. Similarly, we also have another very important exam, MAT. We have CMAT, we have ZAT. Similarly, we also have ATMA. Two major things. One is you can either be, you should have either completed your graduation. So you could have dropped a year, you could have recently completed your graduation, you could be working for several years. So that is one category, those who have completed graduation. The second category is obviously people who are in their final year. So final year, of course, if it's a 4-year course, then in your 4th year. If it's a 3-year course, then in your 3rd year, right? So for engineers, 4th year, for let's say BCom or Eco or English honors or history honors people, it's the 3rd year. The majority of students who sit for a lot of these entrance exams happen to be engineers, but that engineering, more number of engineers often happens in CAT, for example, but in MAT, CMAT, and in ATMA, we see a significant variation. So we see a lot of people from commerce background, lots from humanities background as well. So there is no such thing that will prevent anyone from being eligible. There are 6 rounds in it, basically, like in any entrance exam. So basically any entrance exam in the country, there are 4 or 3 broad areas. Quants is one of them, right? Which is something like mathematics. Then there is logical reasoning, there is general knowledge, and there is verbal ability. These are broadly the 4 areas which we can use in any exam in the country. Now in ATMA in particular, it's a slightly unique paper. There are 6 segments, but each of these segments, so it's actually 3 segments into 2, right? There is no GK, but the other 3 segments. So for example, there is a logical reasoning segment, there is a verbal segment and a quantitative segment, and each of them have roughly, they have 2 rounds in each of them. So there is a round 1 of logical reasoning, a round 2, then there are 2 rounds of quants, and then there are 2 rounds of verbal. There is no GK in this examination. Basically 3 sections of 2 rounds each. So one more interesting thing about this is that it is completely computer proctored, right? So it is online paper. Of course, you can't give it from home. You have to visit some center. There are these common centers. But one of the interesting things about ATMA is also that there are there is a time limit per question, not per question, per segment, right? So because it's an online paper, so they're able to strategize in that way. In a pen and paper, if it's pen and paper, then it's not possible. So मान लीजिए आपने मुझे paper दिया, question paper. If it's a physical paper, then I might take 50 minutes doing verbal and just 20 minutes in quants. That is not something the examiner can control, because once I have a physical paper, I can take as long or as lesser time as possible. But in an online paper, your time is measured. So it's 30 minutes for each of these 6 rounds, right? So the moment the first 30 minutes are over, even if I haven't completed all questions, I will have to move on to the next round. So students will have to focus. You know, there are a lot of students who take a lot of time in English, especially. Why English? That's because in English, we also have this thing, reading comprehensions. So especially if you're a slow reader, it might take you a lot of time to go through the entire passage, right? So if you're taking a lot of time to read the passage, that might lead you to loss of time in the English segment. On the other hand, if you're very quick with quants or maths, it's not that you can proceed to the next round. 30 minutes means 30 minutes, right? So students will have to be very careful about this. So students must improve their reading speed. I know not much time is left, but we have about 15 days for the exam. So try to improve your reading speed. Read as much as possible, solve mock papers, read the newspapers, read books, or if you have time. So reading speed, if you can improve, and not just reading words, it's also comprehending what is there in the passage. So that, because English, as I said, it can be a lengthy section, but 30 minutes means 30 minutes. The same thing also goes for logical reasoning, especially the data interpretation part within logical reasoning, because data interpretation, a lot of the topics, they require you to form a table, right? So table banate time काफी time lag sakta hai, and that is where students will have to be careful that 30 minutes means 30 minutes. I would say if you did not do well in CAT, then you have two options. One is to settle for a college which is, with due respect, next level, right? So I'll discuss that part in detail. The other option is you appear again for CAT. So it is completely your choice. Of course, you can discuss with us individually. I would be happy if you can write questions right now during the session. I can take individual queries during this class as well. So if you have the patience or the time, the financial support, whatever, that's your thing, to go for it again, then go for CAT again, no doubts. But even if you can go, I would say you still appear in ATMA and MAT and CMAT also. You'll see how, or even in CUET UG PG, there's a CUET PG as well. Now these 4 exams will give you option in tier 3, tier 4 colleges. Nothing wrong in that. One has to do best for whatever one position is at. So there are still some very good colleges. I can name a few. Christ University in Bangalore accepts ATMA score. Then we have the okay. Good evening. Interesting. We are having international students. That's quite interesting. Anyway, so I was talking about some of the colleges. IMS in Ghaziabad, for example, Alliance in Bengaluru, then Pumba, which is in Pune. It's part of the Pune University, the Maharashtra University. You will in fact find an entire list. I would suggest all of you to visit shiksha.com. Very good colleges. I've named some of the most prominent ones. Christ is as good as you can say a tier 2 within CAT. So if you can get that kind of an option, then what prevents you? So please go for it. Example, if you think, now I'm sure all those who had you were earlier mentioning how many people have sat for CAT, but they could not get a good score. Now you'll have to analyze, was it one bad day, or generally you are expected not to do too well? One has to know one's ability. So if I'm not very good at maths is a very important part of CAT, and of course it's very tough. This year's CAT was very tough, right? Last year's quants in maths, quants part in CAT was very tough. It was JE level. So if you feel that you are not going to make it, then please settle for something else and do as well. If you think, now a lot of you might have appeared in mock examinations at various coaching institutes or from various textbooks. So if you think you have been performing consistently well in the mock examinations, and it was one bad day, and then definitely go prepare again for CAT. Now, as for settling is perhaps not the right word. It is do as best as possible within your area, right? And all of us have had to make these kind of choices. Some of the colleges I mentioned are as good as, the tier 1, plus you have several other colleges. And if you do well in that college, if your acads are good, your scores are good, if you participate in extracurriculars, co-curriculars, if you hold leadership positions, if you're proactive during placement season. In fact, a lot of tier 3, tier 4 colleges actually offer better placement services than a lot of the tier 1 colleges. Because for a lot of the so-called lower colleges, it is part of the business. If they cannot get you a good placement, then next year they're not going to get students. Students think of it as a school examination, right? So I must repeat what I said earlier, because some students may have joined now. There are total 180 questions in ATMA and 180 minutes. So 3 hours, 180 minutes, 180 minutes obviously, and 180 questions. Each question is 1 mark. This is important, guys. You should note down. Each question is 1 mark, and each question you get 1 mark for the right answer minus 0.25 for a wrong answer, right? So it's very important that you only attempt as much as you are aware of. Don't attempt just to attempt, right? ये school exam नहीं है, आपको 180 में 181 नहीं लाने. You do not need 181 out of 180. Out of 180, you are asking about cutoffs. So cutoffs, I'll divide into 2 ways. One is called percentile. That is most important, right? So percentage से ज़्यादा percentile important है. How many people am I better than? So in maybe in school somebody's getting 170 out of 180, but there could be 500 people getting more than you, so it's not useful. But in an entrance exam, on average, if you take a golden rule, if you get 65% of the score, it's a very good score. So out of 180, if I can see a score of around 120 to 130 is a very good score. If you can make it to 150, it is even better. I must repeat, ATMA is a relatively easy paper compared to the content in CAT or ZAT. So it is like a speed examination. I hope you understand what is speed. In CAT, we only tell people to focus on accuracy and to attempt what they're comfortable with. In ATMA, though, you must attempt as much as possible. So try to get 150. If you attempt 150 score, you probably get something around 120 to 130. So that is broadly the cutoff, right? And when it comes to percentile, percentile has to be above 90 definitely for a good college, but about 95 is even better, because you must understand, colleges like Christ, they don't only select from ATMA. They're also accepting scores of CAT, ZAT, various other examinations. So if they get good students from those, they will also take from there, right? So you have to do as best as possible. So try 95 percentile plus.